afternoon, Rotarians and guests. I hope everybody had enjoyed the warm weekend, perhaps one of our last warm weekends for a while. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Toledo virtual meeting featuring guest speaker Corinne Gregory, Character in a Time of Crisis. And now to deliver the reflection is Sierra Hutton, and to recite the Pledge of Allegiance while we stand is Kate Fineski.
Hi everybody, happy Monday. So I'm going to do a quick prayer, so if you could bow your heads and pray along with me, that would be great. As we gather here in the harbor of your safety, we thank you for fellowship and family. We ask that you will strengthen us, restore us, and inspire us with your love. Lord, would you fill us with your peace so that as we journey onwards, we would pour out your love and grace to others. We ask that our souls would catch the wind of your spirit so that we would take your promises to all of the earth. Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you, Sierra. And since we're speaking about character, we will now recite the four-way test with past President George Eistetter. George?
First, is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Second, is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair
Is it
to
fair
all
to all
concerned?
concerned?
Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be
Will it be
beneficial to all
to
concerned?
Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Thanks, George. Great job.
Okay.
As we begin our meeting, I'd like to acknowledge Kevin P. Mullen Consulting as our September weekly meeting sponsor. Thank you, Rotarian Kevin Mullen. I've got a few updates. Most of you are aware that we are continuing to monitor getting back to in-person meetings. Lucas County is still in the orange. We need to hit the yellow before that discussion even starts. I've had some conversations with people. Again, our plan is to meet in person and have Zoom capabilities, and of course, practicing safe steps, masks, everything. So also the Rotary Bowling League is now forming teams. Please talk to the Tom Romer for more information. Last Friday, we wrapped up our Rotary Golf League, finished a shortened season at Belmont. Actually, it was 2 Fridays ago. We had great fellowship and camaraderie enjoyed by, of course, all the members of that league. And then finally, for this year's End Polio Now campaign, the district is holding a fundraiser called a Celebrity Kitchen Party. For a $10 or more donation, you'll be able to participate in the event. And if you are participating, you'll pick up on Sunday, October 18th, you'll pick up a salmon dinner for 2. It's my understanding the salmon is flown in fresh from Boston, with the sides at Walt Churchill's Market for $25. It'll include recipes to prepare the meal from the celebrity chef Sarah Stegner, who owns Prairie Grass Cafe in Northbrook, Illinois. More information will be in Thursday's Spoke. This week's tour of our committees features the Disability Services Committee. And here to share the great things the committee is doing is Roy Cherry, Chair. Roy?
Yes, I am the chair of the Disability Services Committee. I do have a presentation here. I'm assuming I can share my screen potentially.
Yes, you should be able to.
Potentially.
Does that work?
Yep.
Okay. So the Disability Services Committee, obviously I'm the chair. Our vice chair is Tim Menke, and our board liaison is Cindy Binkley. And So the money that we contribute and donate to the foundation, as you go through all of these tours of the various committees, helps us in different agencies. In our case, people that work with individuals that have disabilities. So a lot of grants for different types of projects. So part of the focus of the Disability Service Committee is to help others maintain a relatively normal lifestyle, no matter what their abilities are. There's a long history with this service committee with the Glendale Fieldbox School, as well as the Ability Center, and was, I believe, integral in the beginnings of the Ability Center years ago. So like I had mentioned, we review grant requests for any type of disability, whether it's a developmental, intellectual, physical, or mental. So to give you an idea of some of the types of grants that were approved over the number of years, we've approved grants for a vehicle for community outing transportation for Bittersweet Farms, therapy equipment for children and adults with intellectual disabilities for the Ann Grady Center, helped the Ability Center upgrade their assist dog building as well. Granted money to the Serenity Farms for a hippotherapy and therapeutic riding program for children with autism, and then bariatric chairs for the Toledo Society for the Blind. So those are some of the grants that we approved over the last couple of years. In addition to the grants that we do approve, we also are involved in some community service projects. Our biggest community service project in the past has been Zoo Day, where we host kids at the Glendale Fieldbox School at the Toledo Zoo. Rotarian volunteers come out, they get paired up with a number of the kids from the school and really help them make their way around the zoo, showing them different exhibits. We've also done that similar type of program at the Imagination Station and Toledo Museum of Art as well. And I have some pictures. Hopefully you guys will be able to see them on this. This was from last year's Zoo Day, which was in September of 2019. A great day. If you haven't ever had a chance to do this and we're able to do this hopefully next year again, I strongly encourage you to take the time to volunteer for this program. The kids are great. You know, you spend the day, you have lunch with them, you take them around and show them the different exhibits, and it's really cool. It's a really neat thing that we can do as Rotarians to get back to the community and really helping these kids have a great experience on that day. I have one other thing I do want to mention about the Disability Services Committee, and that is the Working Better Together initiative that was approved from last year. Actually, I think it was the beginning of this year. And it was an opportunity for to give people with disabilities an opportunity for employment through the network of Rotarians. So the organizations that were involved in this Working Better Together was the Ability Center, Goodwill, Epilepsy Center, and Lot Industries. And what we did was really identify individuals with disabilities that are looking for employment. And the process is really going through a one-point contact at Goodwill Industries. The goal originally was 15 individuals with disabilities to be employed by Rotarians, friends of Rotarians. I think the pandemic kind of slowed this down quite a bit. So that's why I wanted to bring this back up, to make sure that if this initiative is still going, we have a database of individuals with disabilities looking for employment. And if you are interested and you have positions that are available, David Takis of Goodwill Industries is the contact. And I think this will work. You can still access some of this information from our website, the Toledo Rotary website. If you go to How We Help, there's a link that says WBT candidate profiles, and that really shows all of the, how the program works, additional information, and then David's contact information to reach out to them. And then there's also links here to a list of candidates that are looking for employment, their interests, their availability. And we're hoping to really kind of get this going again and get some employment for some of the individuals with disabilities. So that is what we do in the Disability Services Committee. We don't meet at regular basis. I mean, we do when we have grants to review from an FAC perspective. But if you're interested, feel free to reach out to either myself or Tim or Cindy. Get signed up, and we'll keep you on the list for the different emails that go out to set up the appointment. So I guess I will kick it back to you then, President Alex. I unshare this. There we go.
Thanks, Roy. Thank you for a great tour on the Disability Services Committee. I hope this has inspired some of you to join the committee, or if not this committee, any other of our service committees. And now for a new member introduction is our Executive Director, Kathy Tate. Kathy?
It is my pleasure today to introduce new Rotarian, fellow Rotarian, Dr. Murthy Gokula. So a little background on Dr. Gokula. In 2007, he joined the university. I'm on the wrong line. Sorry. You have to read these things. He earned his medical degree in Siddhara Medical College in India, and he completed his family medicine residency at Sparrow Hospital, Michigan State University. Following that, he completed a fellowship in geriatrics at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. Hello, Dr. Gokula, welcome. He's a board certified in both family medicine and geriatrics. He's been invited speaker at several national and regional conferences and has written multiple publications on the subject of elderly patients and the end of life care, which is important to me personally, and I'm sure many of you. Dr. Gokula's special clinical interests are in lifestyle medicine to deliver health, meditation, polypharmacy, diseases of the elderly, and palliative medicine. In 2007, he joined the University of Toledo to start geriatrics fellowship in partnership with St. Luke's Hospital and successfully graduated 12 geriatricians. He resigned there in 2016 to pursue his lifelong dream of creating high-impact healthcare and created and started Stay Home, I Will, that's the name of it, to deliver health care rather than sick care. So important by addressing body, mind, and spirit to bring change in physical, mental, and social well-being. Outside his work for Stay Home, I Will, Dr. Gokula is a hospitalist and past president of the Ohio Medical Directors Association, a state chapter of American Medical Directors Association. Outside the office, he enjoys spirituality, meditation, watching cricket matches, doing Indian karaoke, and most importantly, spending time with his family. Murthy shared with us that he joined Rotary to serve humanity and make a difference, as he strongly believes in one world and one humanity. I'm going to share with you his biggest pet peeve, but when he submitted his application, he had multiples. I just have to share them with you because we don't usually get that. But his biggest pet peeve was too much ego on display among human beings. I think we can all understand that. So then he lists too much ego, human divisions, people who don't shower and stink, smokers, drug addictions, entitlement among human beings, and lack of respect for an individual or other human beings. Fellow Rotarians, please join me in welcoming new Rotarian, Dr. Murthy Gokula. Dr. Gokula, welcome to Toledo Rotary. Thank you for joining our club.
Thank you, Kathy and President Alex. Thank you.
Yep, we welcome the opportunity to get to know you.
Welcome, Murthy. You have just joined an organization with over 1.2 million members throughout the world. We look forward to getting to know you, your leadership, and engagement.
Thank you, President Alex. It's a great opportunity. I've worked with Rotarians across my lifespan in India, in Jamaica, and now it took so long for me to join in US because I think this is my next phase of career path, and I thought getting involved in the community and just to let you know that Toledo Rotary is very known even in India. It's in the top in the world. A surgeon came from India, and he was the one who said I should join Toledo Rotary. And finally I got to, thanks to Sheena, who was doing my pictures. And now I look forward to working, learning with the committees, and I'm here for the opportunity to serve.
Again, thank you. Thank you, Gothi. One of our own, Dick Epstein, talking about ethics. How about, Dick, are you up for the task just to speak a little bit before she gets here?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Dick certainly can do that.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, I certainly hope Corinne arrives pretty quickly, but I'll just tell you that let me just talk about some of the latest scams that we're fighting. I got yelled at pretty well from a business executive who, and I wrote about this in my newsletter, who was all upset because he got a call from the electric company, and they told him they were going to shut off his electric power. The fellow was very convincing. He was insisting that that you were going to lose your power and the company was going to have no electricity. They were driving over to shut it off right now, and he was panicking. So finally, he drove over to the drugstore and bought these iTunes cards and gave them a number, about $400 worth of cards, to the people who claimed to be the electric company. Well, needless to say, it wasn't the electric company. And he called Better Business Bureau and said, you guys should put out a warning about this. Well, we've done multiple warnings about it, but apparently it's still a serious scam. And I want to make sure everybody knows that the power company is not calling. They're not shutting you off. And for heaven's sakes, don't send these people any money. Anyone who wants to get your money for anything that they on a phone call is a scammer. We're getting a lot of calls now on Publishers Clearinghouse, which is a legitimate contest and a legitimate thing, but they're calling people up and they're saying we're calling from Publishers Clearinghouse, which is never happens. They call you up and they say you've won the Publishers Clearinghouse $1 million sweepstakes, but you know, you got your choice. If you want, we can come to your home with the van and the balloons and the big check and present the thing in person. But a lot of people don't want that. A lot of people would prefer. Is Corinne coming on in a minute or two? Okay. A lot of people would prefer that we just send you the $1 million privately so that your neighbors don't know that you won. So this couple in Toledo said, yes, send us the money. Well, they said the problem is under federal law, we cannot just send you, we can't withhold anything from your $1 million. We have to send you the full $1 million. So you have to pay the taxes in advance. And this couple in Toledo sent $30,000 to an address in Queens, New York, thinking that it was the taxes on the $1 million of Publishers Clearinghouse. Of course, it was a complete scam. Fortunately, we were able to recover most of the money. They lost about $1,700, but the message is simple. Phone calls that you've won a prize or a contest are all scams. No legitimate company ever does that. And hopefully that's all you need to hear from me. Do we have our speaker now?
I am pleased to present to you today's speaker, Ms. Corinne Gregory. Corinne is a very widely known speaker, not only in her home area of the state of Washington, but internationally via numerous media appearances, speaking on changing the face of our education system, promoting a return to basic and solid values and conduct, discipline, and a solid education. She has been a member of 3 Rotary clubs and talks about the real and true meaning of our four-way test. She also works as a fundraising consultant and an auctioneer. She must be pretty busy. She is married with 3 children and a current member of the East Jefferson Rotary Club in Chimacum, Washington. And I figure that anyone promoting the four-way test must be a pretty good person. So it is with pleasure that I present to you Miss Corinne Gregory. There you are.
Thanks, George. I hope I'm a good person. I'd like to believe I'm a good person. I'm going to go ahead and do my share screen, and then I will go and start the slideshow, and hopefully it'll all come together. One thing I have noticed, and please do let me know, GoToMeeting has not had this problem, but a couple of times with Zoom, I've gone ahead and advanced the slide only to find that the slide isn't actually advancing. So would somebody let me know if that happens? Because I don't know what it is about Zoom, but it gets a little weird.
We'll keep an eye on you.
All right. So I'm trying to do share screen, but it says I can't do screen sharing. So I guess I just go straight into the presentation.
You should have full access to it. Let me.
Yeah, it tells me the host is disabled screen sharing.
Hey, Travis.
Yeah.
Can you make, so there's 2 Corinnes in the participants, make
Oh,
both of
is
them
that probably
co-host?
Okay. I probably might have the wrong one.
I have to clone myself?
I did not realize there were 2 of them. Okay.
I didn't either. Is it my evil twin?
You have one account that has just says you only have video, and you have one that has the microphone and video.
Oh, that's bizarre.
So try sharing now.
Okay. Well, it's not yelling at me. So can you see me? Can you see the screen?
I do not.
Okay. See if I can tab back to the other one. Zoom. That would be this one. Okay, share screen. That one. This seems like it's working properly, I hope. Come on, you can do it. Oh, sorry about this technical thing. Are we live?
Looks like it's trying to share your screen.
It's blank.
It's blank. I wonder if I have to kill out of the other session. If there's, oh, it says you are screen sharing.
We see a black screen.
A black screen, totally black?
Totally black says Corinne has started sharing screen share. Oh, there we are.
There we go.
Whatever you get, don't touch it.
Okay, I won't. Okay, so the first one was a title slide. We can probably just skip past that. And then I will go ahead and you did the introduction already. I'm going to try to forward that one. There we go. Can you see this about character counts?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so I'll skip the whole part about my introduction because you already did that so eloquently. Thank you very much. And enough about me. Let's talk about the book. So a little bit, and some of you already, for example, Walter graciously invited me to do this with you folks after he saw me present at, I think it was Battleground Rotary. And one of the interesting things about this book was it's not that I'm a very, very slow writer, but it took me almost 6 years to put this book together. Not like I said, because I can't write very quickly, but because the idea came out of an earlier presentation called Overcoming Failure to Educate, in which I mapped the four-way test to its character underpinnings, basically its character foundations. And at that time I thought, well, you know, this actually speaks to a bigger, more detailed topic, but I really wasn't comfortable with it because as much as I love Rotary, I was afraid of not doing it justice. So I kind of sat on it. But here I am now, much later, 6 years later, with the book. And what this book is all about is really a deep dive into the importance and value of the four-way test. And not only do I pick each question apart individually and take a look at the character implications by actually defining what it is we're talking about and why it's important, but I actually have to put it all together because, as we know, you can't really use the four-way test in its separate components. It is meant to be one test with 4 separate questions. The thing that to me was very, very satisfying was being able to do a number of case studies that featured not only famous, but very often not so famous or not yet famous Rotarians and how they actually lived the life that we were expecting them to based on the embodiment of the 4-way test. So what I'm going to try to cover here, and my auctioneering experience will come in handy. I'll try to talk fast, but I'll just give everyone a brief orientation of the 4-way test for those people who aren't completely into where it came from and how it became to be. I will explore the 4-way test in character. That's sort of what this is all about, and talk about the impact of the 4-way test in education. And that's actually something that I do in the longer 50-minute presentation. We'll kind of touch on it a little bit, but I won't go into great detail. Ultimately, I have to convince you that this is important. So I'll tell you a little bit about why this matters, and then we'll talk about where we can go from here. So why does this matter? Well, I don't think anybody's going to argue with this, but we have a continued decline in ethics, integrity, and moral behavior, not just in the United States, but globally. If you take a look at what the Gallup poll in 2017 said, the Americans' ratings of moral values is the lowest now in 7 years. And the reality is it's actually been getting worse. In my stats here, I say since 2002, but in the broader presentation that I do, Overcoming Failure to Educate, I actually go into when that break in ethics and integrity really kind of started, and we explore that a little bit further. The global crises that we have between the global pandemic and all the issues with social injustices right now only make people more frustrated, more angry. And in a lot of cases, yes, we have examples of protesting for good reason, but then there's protest for the sake of rioting and mayhem. And I think that just it goes to show how much more frustrated people are. Our increase in technology can actually lead to a decline in moral values and ethics. For example, who'd have thought, in the 1950s, I like the example of I Love Lucy, Ricky and Lucy never slept in the same bed together that we could see. So how did little Ricky come to be? We have no idea. But yet now in 2020 and 2018 is actually when it started occurring. There have been young people encouraging other people to commit suicide online while they watch it. And this idea of bad behavior and all these reality shows and violent games as entertainment are really not helping us at all. The problem is it's really negatively impacting our children and our youth, our future. So I like to believe there's a reason for hope. If there wasn't, I wouldn't be having this conversation. I wouldn't be trying to convince people that the 4-way test is important. We actually have today 4 simple steps to turn this tide. And the truth is, if we used it way back when properly and we move it forward, we can actually prevent a lot of these issues. We have an opportunity now, and how we use it is really up to us. And what I mean by us is I mean you and I who are listening to this presentation and what you do with it from here. So very briefly, 1932, Herbert J. Taylor, who at that time had just taken over Club Aluminum, a failing company, by the way, decided that what he needed was an ethical yardstick for his employees. The idea being that he needed to come up with a way of conducting business, regardless of who was conducting the business and how. And that was sort of his inspiration there. He actually will mention that he felt that 4-way test inspiration came from God during prayer, which is interesting because Rotary, of course, is not an anti-religious or non-religious organization, but it is a religion-neutral organization. And in keeping with that, Herbert J. Taylor went to 4 of his managers of different religions and said, does any of what I'm proposing here invalidate your own beliefs, or is it contrary to any of your beliefs? And in those cases, all 4 of those managers said, no, we can live with this. This is consistent. It's only 24 words. I would like to challenge anybody to come up with 24 words that mean as much as the 4-way test and is important. So what do we mean by an ethical yardstick? Basically, it's what are we measuring? We're measuring our character. And character by definition is who we are and how we are acting regardless of what else we're doing. While we as Rotarians come together from a professional standpoint, I would like to make the point that the four-way test is also a personal challenge, because if we're truly living the four-way test, we are not just Rotarians when we're in a meeting or working with other Rotarians. We're Rotarians all the time. And while it's a really, really great idea, it's not enough as a great idea. We have to believe it. We have to practice it. And the comment I like to make is it's actually social skills, what we're talking about. Final point is that too many of our kids today aren't learning those. That mapping that I mentioned earlier about the four-way test and character, this is how it all started in that presentation, Overcoming Failure to Educate. And we actually, in the SocialSmarts Exploring the Virtues curriculum, do this mapping with regards to the four-way test. The first question, is it the truth? Not too hard to figure out that we're talking about honesty. We're also talking about integrity. Is it fair to all concerned? Again, fairness, pretty obvious. And we also talk about equality. And when I get to that point, I'm going to make the point that those aren't necessarily always the same thing, even though we use those words interchangeably. Will it build goodwill and better friendships? A lot of them here. Empathy, caring, kindness, and respect. And then finally, will it be beneficial to all concerned? We talk about consideration, cooperation, and fairness. Now note, we actually talk about fairness twice in this presentation. So in light of what's going on right now with Black Lives Matter and issues with equality and what's going on in social injustice, I really think that that's an important point we need to make. So is it the truth? Let's talk about honesty and integrity. One of the problems nowadays is, what is truth? Truth has become such an incredibly relative thing. It's based on other people's perspectives very often. But there are actual hard and fast truths. In fact, Stephen Covey, who is actually a Rotarian, he is in the Provo, Utah club, mentions that there are these true north truths that he calls, which is basically a truth that exists regardless of what else you're believing. For example, most everyone will agree that it is wrong to kill people. It is wrong to steal from people. So there are some things that we can depend on regardless of what our perspective is. But nowadays, also, it's very often the 11th commandment, don't get caught. So it's one of those things that we can get away with until we can't get away with it. And then there's the good old lies, damn lies, and statistics. We can spin anything in any direction we want. And I think nowadays, if you take a look at a lot of what's happening in our political and even our corporate landscape, we see that in evidence every day. Integrity, by definition, means a firm adherence to a code of moral values. However, the new integrity seems to be, gee, I'm really, really sorry when I get caught doing wrong, but it's not the thing that keeps us from doing wrong to begin with. And then trustworthiness is really the basis of all relationships. If you cannot trust somebody, your relationship is always going to be in question. You may know that you can't trust that person and still do business with them or socialize with them, but it definitely impairs your actual relationship. Boy, fairness and equality. So fairness is marked by impartiality, honesty, and by definition, free from self-interest. And equality is the state or having the same rights, status, etc. So fairness and equality are not always the same. When you take a look at what we're talking about with fairness, we're really talking about differences, making up differences, while equality deals with sameness. What we're really trying here is we're trying to struggle for equity. We're trying to balance that scale so that we're getting what we need, very often dependent on who we are. As an example, think about a young child who may be, small little girl, 6 or 7 years old. You're asking her to eat the same amount as a 237-pound linebacker. It's not really fair. It's equal, but it's not fair. So again, what we're trying to do is strive for balance based on where we are. Rotary itself, of course, had to correct its own unfairness. Up until not too long ago, which I find very interesting, women weren't even allowed to be full Rotary members. And in fact, it's only been within the last 50 years where we've been able to do that. And I'm so excited that we actually have Jennifer Jones now, who of all things is our Rotary International president-elect. To think about how far we've come since 1989. And of 1.2 million members of Rotary, there are over 200,000 now plus that are female. So even Rotary recognized that it had to correct its own unfairness. Will it build goodwill? Well, we're talking about empathy, and the reality is most people are actually born with this trait. If you think about little babies crying in a nursery, when one baby cries and they all start crying in the hospital nursery, that's what we're talking about with empathy. Now, there are, of course, times where empathy is pathologically not present, but most of the time we are born with it. Frequently, it gets kicked out of us as we get older. But empathy is very crucial because it's linked to altruism. And why is that so important? Well, altruism is the root of service above self. If we aren't feeling like we need to do things for other people, then why are we serving them to begin with? I also mentioned kindness, caring, and compassion. Caring is pretty simple. It just merely means that it matters. Compassion, of course, is empathy, but taken to a further step. And kindness, of course, is being gentle and kind to everybody, including the environment. And one of the examples that I like to use is the example of Frank Borman. This is one of those moments where I really, really wish that I could see a raise of hands or participation, because I like the audience participation part. But for those of you who don't know who Frank Borman is or do know who Frank Borman is, either way, you either don't know his connection to Rotary, but you may say, yes, he was an Apollo astronaut. Absolutely true. He is also a Rotarian and belongs to the Rotary Club of Space Center in Houston, Texas. Now, it's not because of him being an astronaut that he made it into the book. Where he actually came to fall into the book was because of something happened in 1972. You see, Frank Borman was hired by Eastern Airlines to be a vice president after he finished his Apollo astronaut career. And on December 29th of 1972, he gets a call in the middle of the night. And it's not a good call. He's informed that Flight 401 has now just crashed into the Everglades in Florida, and there is a rescue and recovery effort in place. Well, Frank Borman, being a vice president, can make a whole lot of phone calls and get a whole lot of people to do stuff for him. But he felt so empowered, so compassionate about what was going on that he actually decided to go to the Everglades and help with that recovery effort. And so one of the passengers, Al Morris, remembers in the middle of the night with all sorts of snakes and alligators and terrible things in the swamp, he sees this light shining off in the distance, and it's a helicopter that's coming to rescue him. Turns out a gentleman comes to his side and comes to move to help him to get into the helicopter. And Al Morris is shaking from stress and shock and cold. And the gentleman takes off his jacket and actually puts it around Al Morris. Well, later on, come to find that individual was Frank Borman. So Frank Borman had the compassion to go out and take action. And that's one of the differences between empathy and compassion, that empathy makes us feel, compassion makes us take action. And finally, respect. Pretty simple, a high and special regard. I like to question participants with, is respect one of those things that is earned or given? And again, can't see a show of hands here, but just consider, do you give respect automatically, or do you expect people to earn it? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? One of the things I like to look at is the old-fashioned idea of negotiation, which was a win-lose. It transformed to a win-win when it seemed that win-lose seemed a little harsh. If I win my position in negotiation, you have to lose something. So let's go to win-win, which is still a compromise. It's kind of dividing the baby in half, as it were. So you get a little bit, I get a little bit. We don't both get what we want, but it's going to have to be a compromise. What I actually talk about is a bigger win, what I call the win-win-win, or a mutual win, which means I win something, you win something, and together we build something better than we could have done individually. And I believe that's really what Rotary is all about, is seeking that mutual win. Really what I'm trying to suggest is, instead of considering what's in it for me, which seems to be all too prevalent these days, what's in it for us? What can we get out of this? And I'm going to go a little bit into why this is important in a minute. I don't think I have time for the Star Trek example, but if you're interested, drop me a line and I'll tell you all about Captain Spock in Starship Enterprise. And cooperation, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Cooperation is important because we need common effort. If we're going to make a change, we need common effort. And cooperation also requires recognition. Studies have shown that if you don't feel like you're getting proper recognition or proper credit when you're in a cooperative effort, you actually go to another part and may actually consider sabotaging that particular event. So we need to give recognition. We need to be a group. We need to be a team, and we need to make sure people feel heard. Final little word I want to talk about is probably the most powerful in the entire four-way test, and that's all. That means everyone at all times, no matter whether they're Rotarians, no matter whether they can do something for us, maybe even we don't really care for them. But the four-way test requires us to consider all at all times under all circumstances. And so this is greater than the sum of its parts. Certainly each point has to be evaluated individually, but all four must be used together. If you want proof, think about this saying. Has a significant other ever asked you, does this outfit make me look fat? Well, first voice may say, is it the truth? Yes, dear, it does. But does it build goodwill and better friendships? I think you might find a different way to phrase that. Other topics that I talk about, which are too involved for our particular presentation, are things like loyalty, responsibility and reliability, courage. I have an entire chapter dedicated to integrity and ethics because they aren't actually the same thing, even though they can be used interchangeably, and they are very closely related. I also talk about Rotary and religion. As I mentioned earlier, Rotary is not an anti-religious organization, but it is a religion-neutral organization. And it's really interesting because we can actually go into a discussion of the four-way test and the golden rule, which is also a very universal rule. So very interesting because whether you're religious, non-religious, there is a version of the golden rule that can apply, because without it, we have anarchy, not a community. Tolerance versus acceptance. I think for the sake of our presentation and some Q&A, I'm going to skip past this. I'm just going to highlight this, that tolerance is the big buzzword right now, but it's not enough. Really, tolerance is focused on our differences. And again, I've got an entire chapter dedicated to that in the book. But acceptance is where I think we should be striving for, is because what it says is we want to approve, we want to welcome, and it's not about our differences. It's more about our similarities and what we can do together. Tolerance is a very passive state. Acceptance is absolutely active, and I think that's where we need to go. So with that, I'm going to skip ahead to the end. Let's see. This is where normally I go into the second part. So why should we care? Let's go straight to that. So why should we care? Well, 85% of our success depends on our social skills, and that's professional and personal success. What we practice as adults are things we learn as children. And I think one of the things I mentioned is too often our children are not learning the social skills and character that we need, which is where I think our opportunity comes. Because currently we have a social epidemic of divisiveness, undermining, finger pointing, name calling, all sorts of nasty things, scapegoating, media attacks, half-truths, or the absolute flat-out lies. So you have to ask yourself, what are we as adults modeling that our children are picking up on? There are too many barriers right now to positive character development. There have been increasing barriers, including, for example, the academic push, which does not leave time for any character or emotional development. And the things that we see currently in education, in spite of all the dollars we're throwing at it, are things like high dropout rate, underachievement, lack of preparedness for the job market, and certainly bullying and school-based violence is big. We sacrifice the character portion in order to try to make the education mandates. And if you go back to what I just said about 95% of our success, the character and social skills portion makes everything else easier and more effective. A particular problem we have right now is that the online learning, remote learning, is only increasing the need for social skills education because our young people do not have the normal methods anymore to have that social interaction. So I like to stop right now and say, just imagine if every child had the opportunity to be exposed to the four-way test and what it means. Why is this important? Well, positive behavior, positive attitude and behavior is socially smart. It's consistent with what we believe in Rotary. Character, ethics, and integrity, the service above self, making connections, developing relationships. And the really, really key part of it is the beginning of that four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. So it starts in the head, it starts in the brain and continues through to the actions. So applying the four-way test, hey, it's not just a great idea, we have to act. I believe that Rotary has an incredible opportunity right now to expose more people to the four-way test. And we also need to bring greater emphasis into the idea of service. I would recommend that we make opportunities to truly share what the four-way test is about. And don't just say it, live it. I'm really pleased to see that you're a club that actually recites the four-way test, because it's interesting as I give this presentation, how few clubs really do it. This is an incredible marketing opportunity, and we don't take advantage of it. We could use the four-way test as a way to promote character, ethics, and integrity, because I really believe that Rotarians are people of character, and we must generate awareness of Rotary's contributions to character beyond just within our four walls, our districts, or our zones. Especially the emphasis needs to be on the next generation, our future Rotarians, our future leaders, our future world. So how can Rotary make a difference? So it requires an investment, both on Rotary clubs and individual support, and actually probably as a broader method. So yes, I love it if you purchase copies of the book, give it a review. I am donating a portion of the proceeds back to Rotary International, not profits, because I don't make a profit. I need opportunities to promote and under my speaking engagements. I don't get paid for this. I'm just trying to do this to make a difference. I would recommend that you create ethics initiatives in your own clubs, and there's other possibilities also. Happy to talk about those. So what's in it for Rotary? I'm breezing through this quickly. I know I'm getting out of time. So communicate our commitment as Rotarians to ethics and integrity through the four-way test. Again, we have this vehicle. We should be using it. It gives us participation in public awareness of our ways to support education. We'll see immediate improvements in student achievement, and I've got statistics in my other presentation to show you what a difference it can make. Longer term, if you change a student, you change a community. And remember, today's students are tomorrow's Rotarians. So, in conclusion, just like polio, I believe the ethical crisis is a global problem. And after we fix the epidemic of polio, let's find another big problem to solve. We have an opportunity to invest in the future by what we do today. So stop and think, what does your vision of the future look like, and how can the four-way test be used to make that reality? I think this year's theme is perfect. Rotary provides us this opportunity. And now we have to take advantage of it. So normally I say copies are available today. Yeah, they're on Amazon, not at the back of the room. I do have a sign-up sheet for copies of today's presentation and a newsletter that I turn out, things about the book, discussions about things about Rotary and the four-way test. And finally, my contact information. And I think that's it for me.
Corinne, thank you so much. Rotarians, we got a couple of minutes for questions, so we're going to open it up. If you have a question for Corinne, again, same rules apply as always. You can raise your hand virtually through the participant tab. You can comment in the comments section of Zoom, or if you really want to roll the dice, you can physically raise your hand and just hope to God that I see it. So I don't recommend that route, because the likelihood that I actually see you is slim to none. But
I saw George.
Did George's hand go up?
George's hand went up.
Oh boy. All right, here we go. George is notorious for not using either of the preferred mechanisms. Here we go. All right, George, you got to unmute yourself. You're up first.
Corinne, as our club's four-way test guru, I want to compliment you for that fine presentation. I got a couple comments. One, I'd like to have your email address back up there so I can get a hold of you. And we can't resolve this today, but I'm gonna investigate what it would take financially to provide these books to at least one school or one class per year and see what happens.
Sounds great. And George, you and I could have a conversation too about something that might be a little more powerful and to go with it and less expensive. So let's talk afterwards.
That's why I wanted your contact.
Perfect. I can probably, I don't know if I can, if
It
I
was up
put-
there
I'll
for
put
just
it in the comment section, George.
Oh, pardon. Oh,
I'll put it under the chat window.
okay, thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions? I did see somebody complimented me on my coffee mug, so I thank you for the compliments on my coffee mug. I'm very proud of it.
All right. Kurt, saw the hand go up.
Yeah.
You're up.
I'm unmuted. All right. Corinne, I particularly struck me as your tolerance and acceptance portion. Now, I've always sort of heard the saying that today's tolerance is tomorrow's acceptance. Can you comment a little bit more on that?
Well, I would actually challenge that, because the problem with tolerance is it essentially, the position that it takes is I accept your differences. I accept you in spite of your differences. You and I don't see eye to eye, but I'll kind of put up with you because I'm expected to. And so tolerance can actually become a vehicle for bullying, and has become a vehicle for bullying because it keeps the emphasis on the differences. And it actually makes me the superior person because, well, heck, you're so different. You're so strange. You're from Ohio, whatever. But I'll put up with you. So I think that the acceptance part really has to start looking at what we have in common, because all of us have differences. Every single one of us is different in some ways. And in the classroom activity that I suggest is we ask the teachers or the facilitators to actually have each student make a list of 5 or 10 different attributes, and you start pasting that up against the wall, and you notice everybody's different. We got to get beyond that. Does that make sense, Kurt?
Oh, absolutely. I just
Okay.
wanted some further comment because I found it a very interesting portion of your presentation.
Thank you. Well, like I said, I dedicated an entire chapter to it. And I think right now it's particularly important with all the social unrest and issues that we have to really take a look at what it means and what it does.
Agreed. I think that's moving to the active part of it is the more important piece. But again, just wanted to hear your thoughts on it. Thank you.
There they are.
All right. Perfect.
Awesome. Oh, Corinne, thank you very much. Sorry, Kurt, I cut you off. I didn't mean to. Maybe I did mean to. All right, so I'm going to pass it back to President Alex to wrap up our meeting.
Thank you for joining us today, Corinne, and for a very thought-provoking presentation.
Well, I'm just sorry I jumped in late.
A famous local book called Historical Tales of Toledo, authored by past President Clint Mock. I will also be making a donation to the Polio Plus Fund in your name. And again, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you. I'm just so sorry that I jumped in late. Normally I'm not so rushed.
All good. We had a fantastic filler. One of our own, Dick Epstein. Next meeting, Monday, October 5th, Jim Schmeichel, clubhouse manager of the Detroit Tigers. And today we have one meeting, the Peace Committee, meeting directly after this meeting on Zoom. And those who wish to participate, please stay on the Zoom meeting and you'll be placed into the breakout. Also, the FAC committee meets this Friday, October 2nd at 9:30 via Zoom. And finally, we couldn't go without him today, Chuck's Chuckles.
Try as you may. These are authentic as verified by the internet, and so therefore they must be truly authentic. Country song titles. Her teeth was stained, but her heart was pure. I liked you better before I knew you so well. She got the ring and I got the finger. You're the reason why our kids are so ugly. I keep forgetting I forgot about you. My wife ran off with my friend and I sure do miss him. How can I miss you if you won't go away? I still miss you, baby, but my aim's getting better. And finally, my personal favorite, Mama, get a hammer. There's a fly on Papa's head. And there you go.
Oh, that's beautiful. I don't know where you come up with these, Chuck, but they certainly are worthwhile.
It's a dark and scary place.
And after that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today.
Hi, Tom. I'm Bruce from Uganda.
Breakout sessions offer the opportunity to network with members from around the world while learning new skill sets.
As Rotary, we have been static for so long, but this is an opportunity for us to vision again and look ahead.
Breakouts are a place to discover the latest ideas and strategies that drive Rotary. As you can see, convention is an excellent opportunity for development.
The new vision statement is something that I will try and introduce at club assembly in 2 weeks at our club, and we will definitely adopt that.
Another great place to share your ideas is the social media lounge in the House of Friendship. Stop by to participate in interactive quick chats with new friends or get personalized help for your social media channels to help tell your Rotary story.
At the Rotary International Convention in Taipei.